This is the Dan Matheny Show. Hello and welcome. Today's guest is Mike Berger. Mike is a sports marketing consultant who got his start in 1994. In 2010, Mike formed his company, Berger Sports Marketing. Mike is on the phone with us now. It's great to have you on the show with us today. Thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Great, Dan. Good to be here.
Let's start with this question. When you were growing up, what sports were you interested in?
I was always interested primarily in baseball. I liked a lot of the major sports. I grew up in New York. You have a little bit of everything to follow on the pro side, but I mostly gravitated towards baseball, played it, really followed it closer than anything else.
What were your favorite teams?
I was and still am a big Yankees fan. That's kind of in the family bloodlines. My father grew up in the Bronx right near the stadium, so did his father, and my uncle's a big fan, so when growing up, I'd very often go to Yankee games with my dad, his brother, and my grandfather, which was really special. And fortunately, we didn't get to see many winning Yankee teams in the 80s when I was growing up, but I have great memories of going to the games with them. I also liked the Jets and the Knicks and the Islanders, and certainly the Islanders were a fun team to grow up near because from 1980 to 1984, they won the Cup 4 years in a row. And that happened about 15 minutes from my house in Nassau Coliseum. So that was special and memorable for me and really everyone on Long Island to have best hockey team in the world play in that little arena on our island. It was really a lot of fun.
Describe more about the sports you played.
I played baseball a little bit in high school and tennis as well. And I played softball and baseball and tennis and golf recreationally my whole life and other sports. But sports is a big part of my life from the standpoint of playing it. I'm coaching it now with my son, who's a pretty good baseball player himself, and obviously made a career out of working in the business of sports. So it's definitely a big deal in my life.
This actually leads to my next question. As a spectator, what makes you think about what people are attracted to with sports?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors. I think there's a live aspect to sports that is a unique experience. Being at the event, being around thousands of other people that at least for a little while are kind of all on the same page. It's tough to get a group of people to agree on many things, especially nowadays, but when you go to a sporting event, everybody's wearing the same colors, rooting for the same team, for the most part. And there's this experience that takes place for a few hours where you're friends with strangers and you're bonding with people that you may have never met, and you're all pulling in the same direction. And I think that's a rare thing. Sports is unique in its ability to deliver that. And of course, just the action of it. Whatever sport you're talking about, if that's the sport you're into, you're kind of sitting there marveling at the athletic ability that's going on the field. You never know what you might see. These are generally things that we as spectators can't do. And so we're kind of marveling at the talent that we're seeing on the field, especially at the pro level, because it's so far beyond what most people have ever or could ever achieve.
Is there a specific athlete that has captured your attention through time that stands out from the rest?
I'd have to say, based on when I grew up, it's Michael Jordan. He changed sports and the business of sports. I think from my standpoint of the age that I'm at, he was the first superstar athlete that kind of transcended sports. He was a larger-than-life figure. It felt like he was the most famous person in the world, certainly in the country, for a period of time. And unique in the sense that his brand was the substance. He did amazing things on the court, these highlight reel dunks and things like that. But generally, he was about winning. And just championship after championship, 6 titles in a career where he missed a full season to go play baseball. So you're talking about a guy that was marketable from every standpoint. He looked the part. He was the best player in the league, genuinely and really by a wide margin. And his team won championships. And when they weren't winning championships, they were competing right at the doorstep for those titles, and he was carrying them as far as they could go. And then at the same time, he helped to build Nike into the powerhouse brand that it is today. Brand Air Jordan continues to be one of the top sports brands in the world. So from every standpoint, what he could do on the court and what he was able to have his team achieve, and then off the court with how he changed the game in terms of endorsements and sports marketing, he's the guy.
He originally wanted to sign with Adidas. That's what his favorite shoe was back at the time when he first came into the NBA. Anyway, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and we will be back.
The prettiest heads in town are turning to Shasta for a hot cream shampoo. When lanolin-enriched Shasta meets hot water, hundreds of tiny cells explode into hot lanolin lather that cleans and lusters hair as it give you a caressing hot cream shampoo. Hair looks brighter, feels softer, and will stay its behaving best for days to come when you have a hot cream shampoo with Shasta cream.
We are
shampoo.
back with Mike here on the show having fun. How did you get started with marketing?
Well, I kind of backed into it. I was trying to become a sportscaster, interestingly enough. And when I was in college, I used to do the play-by-play on the college radio station for the school's basketball team and their football team. I went to the University of Rhode Island, and I really fell in love with broadcasting there, calling the games, and just the lifestyle of being on the road with the team. But at the same time I was doing that as a student radio station, in order to have any budget to pay for things like airfare and hotel to travel with the team, we had to go out and sell sponsors that would support the broadcast. So at the time I thought, well, this is just something I have to do in order to keep myself on the radio. And it was a means to an end to go and visit the local businesses around the school and see if I could get them to spend some money running commercials during the games. But as it turned out, I was doing the thing that I would end up making a career out of. And so when I got out of school, I had those two skills. I had this broadcasting skill, although I certainly wasn't a finished product. And then I had this ability to go and talk to businesses about the power of sports and why they should be part of it from a sponsor and advertiser standpoint. So I was immediately able to start a career with both. So I went to Orlando, Florida, and I got a job with a radio station as an overnight board operator / top of the hour newsman / sports reporter / account executive on the sales side. And so I was 23 years old, and I had this Swiss Army knife kind of role with the biggest AM radio station in a mid-sized market of Orlando. And it was a great time to be there. The local team, the Orlando Magic, had Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway, and they were themselves competing for championships. It was an exciting time for the city, for sports in the city, and it was really my kind of post-undergrad time to really build and sharpen my tools and figure out what I wanted to do moving forward. And after a couple of years of doing all those different things, I decided, you know what, I'm going to pursue the business side and the marketing side and leave the broadcasting behind.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
As time goes on, new ideas inspired you and inspired action happened. And you've described what the journey has been like for you. When you started in 1994, what was the first company that you did sports marketing for?
Well, that radio station in Orlando, there were WDBO. They were at the time owned by Cox Communications, and that was a sports marketing job, at least in part. Mike, the main thing they wanted me to do was to try and find advertisers for their broadcast of the Orlando Magic games. So I was out in the market talking to business owners about how we could customize a sponsorship package with the Magic on the radio station to deliver value. So we were talking about building customized features and promotions and what kind of creative copy they could run that would associate them with the team. And then there was a hospitality component. We had tickets to the games. We had access to a suite. We could take people on the road with the team. And so there was that customer, client, entertainment side. And that really gave me a good start in the business of marketing and sports marketing because I was able to work with all the assets that a team has to offer and then learn how to connect those assets with a sponsor's goals and objectives.
The challenges that you've had has helped build and develop your brand. We're going to go on break as I have a message from Red Cross. We will be back with our guest, Mike Berger. Disaster victims need your help. The American Red Cross provides victims of disaster with food, shelter, counseling, and more. Your support for the American Red Cross Disaster Relief Fund helps victims of thousands of disasters across the country each year. To make a donation, contact the American Red Cross today. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcross.org. We are back with Mike. You've described what it's like starting out. Things happened, new ideas. All of these challenges inspired you in a big way to build your own brand, Berger Sports Marketing. How did that unfold for you?
I had a pretty good run as a sports marketer, but on the team side. So I was working, as I mentioned, for that radio station in Orlando. I ended up moving to Tennessee after that, worked for a similar outfit, but the property there was the Tennessee Titans of the NFL. Then I moved to Baltimore in 2000, worked for the Ravens radio network, and then the Baltimore Orioles, and then the Baltimore Blast, and then the University of Maryland sports marketing. So I had all this experience with these different football and baseball, and then on the college side. And all the while I was meeting sponsors and customers that would become kind of my core base of clients and contacts in this market. And I felt that I could start a business where instead of trying to sell a particular team or sponsorship for a team to these clients, that I could start to approach them and talk to them about me being their consultant and their sports marketing agency, where I would advise them and help them put together their entire sports marketing strategy, and really in some cases their entire media strategy, and then work on their behalf instead of trying to essentially sell a product to them. I felt strongly I had the right relationships and experience to do that, and that it would give me more career flexibility. By that point, I was a little bit tired of being beholden to the fortunes of any one team that I was working for. I wanted to be able to solve problems for clients. You work for a team, or you work for any company, and you're offering solutions, whether it be advertising or anything else, and you're limited to the solutions that your company can provide. You're really only scratching the surface on how to achieve a client's objective. So as an independent agency, I can really talk with a client and say, what are we trying to accomplish? What are our resources? What time of year is best for us to be advertising and to be in a high profile setting? How do we want to entertain customers? When do we want to do that? And really dive deeper into how to market through sports, and then go out and find the right matches without worrying about, well, I work for this team, so the match needs to be here. I can work with any team that is best for my clients. And so I felt there was a business there. So in 2010, I took the leap, and fortunately it's worked out pretty well.
Do you have any advice for people that are up and coming and building their own brand?
Yeah, I think at least in my field, I feel like my brand is about results. And in order to have a sustainable brand, there's got to be real value. So I think the mistake that people make when they think about branding is they skip to the part where brand is considered cool, or the brand is considered reliable, or the brand is considered sought after. I think that has to start with real substance. And so I think, if you were to ask my clients, what is Berger Sports about? They would say things like reliability and results and responsiveness and relationships and value. And they wouldn't talk about things that are more intangible. And I think that's an important thing for young people to remember, is that you don't get to fast forward to the end where your brand has credibility. You got to actually build credibility by delivering value for your customers. And the brand part of it kind of takes care of itself.
Networking with companies or teams, it seems like a process sometimes. How does that process work?
Well, in my case, the teams need guys like me. I represent clients, and those clients trust me to guide them into certain decisions. So the clients are asking me, hey, should we partner with the Ravens, for example? And if so, how? And so if the Ravens want to do business with my client, I'm the one that has a real handle on what those client objectives are, what the budgets are, who's making the decision, what will go into that decision making. And I have established the credibility with the client where my recommendation is going to carry a lot of weight. So I've put myself in a position where the teams know that they have to go through me to get the money they want. And so in terms of networking, I like the fact that I do need the teams to a degree, but really they need me more than I need them. And so from a negotiation standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, I'm in an advantageous spot where they really need to be worrying about networking with me versus the other way around. I'm busy networking with clients and potential future clients so that I can build my base of customers and continue to build my brand and continue to deliver value for different types of companies. But as far as the teams are concerned, they spend time trying to figure out how to influence me, which is advantageous for me and for my clients.
Anyway, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with our guest, Mike Berger.
Waiter! Waiter! Phil, did you ever see this poor service? I'm going to call the manager. Take it easy, Walt. What's mostly wrong is your grouse. I'm sorry, Phil, but my digestion is so upset. What you may need for your poor digestion is something that works after nature's own orders. Try Carter's.
We are back on the show with our guest, Mike Berger, here in the brand new year 2019. Mike, what is your personal and professional goal for 2019?
Well, on the professional side, I'd like to add at least one new client for 2019. My business is just me, so I don't have a staff. I do what I do on my own, and so I have to grow strategically, carefully. I want to keep the clients that I have happy, and fortunately, for the most part, I've been able to do that. So I have these long-term partnerships with my clients, and I want to continue to secure that business and grow that business, but also want to grow. And so I'd like to add at least one client this year. If I can add a get client each year. That's a successful year as long as I'm also keeping the ones that I have, or at least most of them. There's some degree of turnover in any service business, and so you can always lose a client here or there, but adding one is important, and I'd like to do that this year, and I think that I will. On the personal side, always looking for ways to get better as a person. I'm approaching being 50 years old in a few years, so I want to make sure that, my body's in good condition. So I'm making fitness and nutrition, more and more of a focus as years go by, and I'll continue to do that and try to be the best husband I can be, the best dad that I can be, and other things that I enjoy, trying to be a good baseball coach to the youth team that I coach that my son is part of. Those are the things that I'm focused on.
Out of all the companies and teams that you've worked for, whom has been your favorite?
Well, interestingly, I enjoyed my time most having worked for NFL teams, major league teams, and a major college team at the University of Maryland. But the job that I got the most out of was a job that I had after being fired by the Orioles, which was probably at the time felt like the lowest point in my life. My son was just born. He was a few months old. I had this great job with major league team. I had an office that overlooked the field. And as I mentioned before, baseball was my first and primary love. And so when I lost that job, I felt devastated. And as it happened, I ended up getting a job with an indoor minor league soccer team called the Baltimore Blast. And I thought at the time, well, this is a big step down from Major League Baseball to minor league indoor soccer. And on paper, it was a step down in terms of prestige and all those things. But the person that I was working for was a brilliant businessman who, in addition to owning the soccer team, was president and CEO of a major local bank. And he really let me into his inner circle, brought me in as a department head, gave me access to meetings and opportunities and business deals that I never would have been involved with if I was working for a major league team, because I was so far removed from ownership that I would never have been involved or had access to really the way it works at the very top. Working for the Blast, I was working directly for the owner. And so I got to touch every part of the business, and even beyond the business of soccer. Once the owner figured out that I was a fairly good business person with a good work ethic, he let me into some other areas. And so I learned a tremendous amount about business, about negotiating, about Baltimore. Working in that job, I think I got more out of that than any other place that I've been in. And probably now as a business owner, I draw more on the experience that I had for 3 years working in minor league soccer than I do any other piece of my career.
As a spectator, currently, what are your favorite teams right now? I know you like the Yankees, but what other teams do you like?
Well, I've been in Baltimore almost 20 years now, so being in the business of sports, you can't help but follow the local teams in Baltimore and Washington because their success is important to my success. And so I follow the Ravens closely and the Orioles, Washington Capitals. So those are some other teams that I follow, and not so much as a fan, but as a almost like I own stock in these companies, and their winning feels like the day the stock went up, and when they lose or lose consistently, it feels like that stock is down. And so it's an interesting dynamic where, the Yankees are kind of where my heart is, and some of the New York teams, and I'm passionate about those, but I don't do business with those teams. I do business with the local teams, and so I'm invested in them in a different way and follow them closely as a result.
Anyway, we are now at the end of the show. Thanks once again for joining us, Mike. Any last words?
No, it was fun talking to you, Dan, and appreciate you having me on.
Excellent. This has been a Dan Matheny production. Thanks for listening. Till next time, take care.